love your background.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Oh yeah, I change it out sometimes. It just depends on what I'm in the mood for. Real talk.
What is it?
Oh yeah, piece of like concept art or something.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering if it's from like a movie or
No. I mean, I think I got it from like Behance or something like that. Like, I mean, I'm always building like pitch decks and presentations and stuff. So I just have a gigantic drive full of like just cool, dope, moody art of beautiful women looking sad with Japanese shit in the background. you never know when you're going to need one of those.
Welcome back. It's been a while since your last time on the pod. We're thrilled to have you.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah. It's good to see you back on here. Thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry I was late. I'm like finishing up a draft that I have to turn in tomorrow. So I was just in the middle of that, doing some rewriting.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Writing is rewriting.
And then rewriting. And then
rewriting. And then rewriting. And then waiting. And then drinking. And then not sleeping. That's the secret. That's the secret to being a pro writer is just, get some booze and don't sleep.
Gotta take some notes.
So, what are you in the middle of working on Blade right now? Is that what you were?
Oh no, this is screenplay.
Okay, nice.
No, Blade. I did do a little rewriting on Blade earlier today, but it wasn't much. It was just like a couple notes from Marvel and just doing some line changes and sending it back off.
Nice.
Just so our listeners who are tuning in and who will listen to this later on. Bryan Edward Hill currently writes Blade for Marvel.
Yeah, issue 5 dropped yesterday, I think, right?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of holed up in an undisclosed location, so I don't really, you know what I mean? Like, I never know when anything drops or, Marvel will send me books, and that's how I know it's out because my comps show up. But like, I'm just so busy that, I'm like a butterfly, flower to flower to flower. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I don't even know what's going on. Only reason I even knew to be here was my computer started yelling at me and I was like, oh, snap. And then I just,
Nice. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
It really means a lot.
It's all good. I mean, look, I'm really just grateful for, like the support I get and, people are cool and anytime anyone wants to share a platform, I'm always trying to find a way to make that work. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So aside from Blade, are there any projects that you're working on that you can share with us right now?
That I can share with you right now. This isn't the screenplay I was working on today, but I did right before the writer's strike. I sold a pitch, a horror movie based on a Reddit short story. Called The Purgatory Game. And there was a press announcement on that. So that one's out there. So that I'm working on that. And I'm working on this other screenplay right now, kind of a big one. I guess the announcement will come out about that at some point soon. Besides that, like what else do I have going on? I got a movie I'm directing that's coming together. But can't really say too much about that, but looking to start shooting that summer next year, maybe. So I'm stirring the pot a little bit.
Is this your directorial debut?
I suppose it would be. Yeah, I suppose it would be. When the strike hit, I was like, well, I can't really work on studio things. I was doing comics. It's kind of the reason why I could do Blade because I had the time to get the lead in time to be able to work on a thing. And I just was like, well, why are you in Hollywood, Bryan? Like, why are you here? Like you can leave if you wanted to, And I was like, well, I went to film school and wanted to be a filmmaker, and I shoot little things, and I don't really put them online yet and all that. And so I just kind of spread my wings and just evolved and just dove into thinking about making a film and wrote a movie that's like a cool kind of character-driven genre thing, and sent it to a couple people. They got excited about it, and it just kind of started going on from there, But yeah, there'll be more details about that over the coming weeks. But with WGA strike and the SAG strike, wasn't too much I could do. So except for like just do multiple drafts and work on that stuff and Yeah. And I got like a bunch of film gear, and I've been doing some shooting of other things that I'll be posting online, and building a filmmaker website and doing all the due diligence. Might be doing a music video for somebody fancy soon. So, we'll see.
Nice.
We'll see.
Nice.
You're a man of many talents for
Yeah,
sure.
that's awesome.
No, really. It's necessity is the mother of invention. I never really I was always an army of one growing up, right? So like I never ever thought that I would get help doing anything. So I just learned how to do a bunch of things because I was always in a situation where, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done, So that's why, you go to my Wikipedia, it sounds like, oh, this guy, he does all this stuff. No, I'm not a polymath. It's just that if I needed music for a thing, I had to learn how to do music. So then I produced music for, like 6-7 years. And then I wrote really to support the filmmaking because I went to film school.
Nice.
But you come out of film school and it's like, well, where are you going to get a screenplay?
Yeah.
Who's going to just give you a screenplay? I have no money. I can't buy a screenplay from somebody. I guess I'm going to have to learn how to write one, right? So that's where the writing came from, and and all the other stuff, So everything that you see me do, I just kind of picked up along the way. I was doing portrait photography for a while because it was easier than doing like short films and that kind of thing. But I got a camera in my hands and I got to shoot people, and so I put that stuff up on Instagram. So I look really confused on the internet, but it's really just I just have I just had to develop skill sets to get things done. Otherwise, just be waiting forever. It's like you guys, right? Like you guys got to put this together.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you got to set the time, and all y'all got stuff you have to do, but you still set the time to get together and get your whole setups going and reach out to guests and get guests scheduled on, and the rest of it, it's no one's going to do that for you,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Also, not to sound like Tony Soprano, but if you ever need a camera jib guy, I know a guy. Seriously, dude, he has his own 50-foot camera jib. He's very cool. I've worked with him on music videos. I'm always kind of right weapon, right battle, Yeah.
And so the way I tend to work, and we'll talk about Blade in a second, because I'm sure people want to hear about Blade. Not me talking about filmmaking.
Yeah, we'll segue.
Everybody settle down. All right. I know why I'm here. Okay. But yeah, the way I think filmmaking wise is I'm always sort of trying to take everything to the water's edge of what I got. And then if I feel like, oh, you know what, I do need a thing, I'm not one of those guys let me get the $60,000 truck and I'll figure out how I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
But cool. Yeah. Send me links, send me details.
Thanks. We'll do.
Yeah, that's awesome. So so I guess we'll just go.
We'll talk about Blade like we said.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Blade.
Dude, what an iconic intro.
I gotta say, it's so cool that we got you on for this, because I rewatched it maybe 3 weeks ago, and then I told Anthony and Cody, I was like, yo, dude, let's do an episode on Blade. And then Anthony was like, yo, why don't we ask if Bryan wants to come on? So it all kind of synced up perfectly.
Oh, for sure.
I just watched it on a whim. I was like, you know what movie I haven't seen in a while? Blade. And man, it fucking rules.
Man, Blade, Blade is, well, you said it fucking rules, right? So I don't have to censor myself.
Oh, no.
Not at all.
Yeah. Blade just fucks, man. That movie.
Yeah. It's sexy.
It's just it's one of the most watchable fucking movies. Blade is that thing where it's Sunday afternoon, you're just blip, 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 and then you get to that one part. And you're like, oh, Blades, I'm gonna watch the part when they take them to the beach and take the helmets off and thing. And, and then you invariably gonna make it up to La Magra. You know what I mean? You always make it up to La Magra. Nobody puts on Blade for a second. You will sit there and put it on. And so it's kind of perfect.
Yeah.
And Blade does not get the flowers it should get, because
it really
exactly
because it really, to me, was responsible for Marvel Comics translating into powerhouse film franchises, right? Where it sort of proved the model of you can do a comic book film, but it can reach out past that, but still honor the source material, right?
Yes.
And I think it should get credit for that. I think Stephen Norrington should get credit for trench coats and martial arts and stuff. I mean, Blade was before the Matrix.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This came before Matrix.
Yes.
Came before X-Men. Came before Spider-Man.
Yeah. I mean, it was
like Blade was I don't know. I think
a pioneer.
Yeah, no, Blade, like a lot of stuff would not have happened had Blade not hit, you know, and a lot of stuff from the 90s, you watch it now and it feels like too 90s, right? You're just like, oh dear, you know, it just kind of just takes you back in a way that makes you like, I'm not really trying to go back like that. But like Blade still feels incredibly current.
So fresh.
Yeah.
And Stephen Dorff doesn't get enough credit either. I mean, you know, like,
he's so good.
He's so good.
Yeah.
He's so good, right? Like, it just, you know, like, because Deacon Frost is, you know, the character in, you know, and nothing against David Goyer, who's a genius, but the character on paper, you know, isn't like the Joker, right? Isn't like, you know, like, well, I don't know how I got these scars. It doesn't have all that sauce, right? So like Dorff just like swagged it out, you know, and committed to it. So
I also think he's a very underrated actor. I don't think he gets the praise that he should.
He is an underrated actor because it's like Dorff came up when they were making sort of different things they're making now, right? So now when you look at it, it's like, well, who do you get Stephen Dorff to play? Because they don't really make a lot of those characters anymore. For the kind of character guy that's got some sex appeal, but you know, he's a little off center. You know, it's like that's like the Michael Fassbender part.
Yeah,
you know, and there's only a handful of those parts that happen every year, but no, he crushed that thing. I mean, and the talent that's in there. You got Donald Logan there. You got Chris Christopherson in there.
Christopherson, man.
You know, like it's just kind of this beautiful train wreck of a movie in a lot of ways. Like Tracy Lord showing up in the beginning, like. You know, like when you got Tracy Lords in like the opening 5 minutes of your movie, you're doing things, you know? I dig that one. I dig, yeah. So that was obviously a huge inspiration for me, just like tonally, you know, for the comic.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I want to like mirror the movie because you know, when you're doing a comic book, you have a limitless aesthetic budget. Like you don't have to. I mean, you can do a $500 million Blade movie on paper, right? Yeah. And that's when like people are on Twitter like they should get Bryan Hill to write the Blade movie. I'm like, yeah, they don't want to pay for that. Like that is, you know what I mean? Like it's a whole different thing. Like Bryan Hill can write anything in a comic book. Blade can go to hell, come back from hell, go over here, talk to Dracula, talk to Doctor Strange, throw a train at somebody. Like I can do all that in a comic book, but you know, in a film, it's a little different. You know, you got it's like live action, and you got to kind of square it away. But you know, when Marvel came to me about Blade and said, "Hey, Bryan, you know, would you be interested in this?" Because you know, I don't really do like monthly comics a lot. You know, with my schedule and everything else, like I kind of got to stick and move in comics. You know, like I might do like a mini here or something there, and that kind of deal. But when I talked to Will and Michelle over at Marvel, who are both wonderful people to have editing you, you know, they were just open to a robust action adventure, like adrenalized take, you know, and what I wanted to do was something that really just like vehicled what I think are the coolest parts of the character. Now, I didn't want to get kind of mired in something that didn't allow Blade to do Blade stuff, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, me personally as a creator, I'm kind of done with deconstruction. In a lot of ways, I think we've deconstructed the mythic heroes, you know, within an inch of their life at this point. Yeah. And I think now we've got to get back to constructionist mythic storytelling, you know, because everything is ironic. You know, there's always like a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge at the end of every dramatic scene in the thing now, feels like. And so nothing really takes itself seriously. It's not that Blade takes itself like seriously, like it's high art. That's not what I'm saying. But it's honest about what it is. Like it's not apologetic for being like a violent, kinetic, badass action adventure horror thing. You know, and I think that energy needs to get back into storytelling, you know, and especially in film. I mean, film, it's so rare. You know, it's crazy. But
boy, do I love to hear you say that.
Well, no, I mean, it's just the way it is. Like when you make the thing, people like the thing. right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean like the thing in the movie. People like the thing in the movie, but I mean like the essence of the thing, right? Like look at a RoboCop, Rogue, whatever it is. I don't remember what the name of the video game is, but like the new RoboCop game, right?
Oh yeah, that looks sick.
It's just RoboCop.
Yeah.
Right now you go to a studio. I don't know if we can make RoboCop anymore because because people feel a certain way about the police, and I don't know if we're going to do RoboCop. Exactly. No, you make the video. It's RoboCop, right? You just make RoboCop. Like you put the satire in, you put the thing in there. You gotta drop it. Dead or alive, you're coming with me. Like you just put RoboCop in it, right?
Exactly.
Because people like RoboCop. And I, so many times I'll look at something and I'll be like, man, they just make the thing. Just make it. Like, don't be scared of it, right? Like I guess that's the thing with Blade for me is I wasn't going to write Blade and be scared of Blade. Be scared. Whoa, you're going to kill the vampire. I don't know if I want to do that because, you've seen him kill the vampire before. Drive the car. I don't know if he can drive the car. Nah, man, like it's Blade. This bad Blade do Blade stuff.
I want to see him fuck shit up.
Yeah. I thought it was crazy that it said the legacy number was only 29. Like, your first issue of Blade, like I didn't know, like Blade, it seems like Blade doesn't have as much like comic history as I thought he did.
It doesn't really, you've got the classic kind of Wolfman stuff that you can go to. And then there've been these like sporadic miniseries, do like 5 issues here or something like that. Then some years pass and you get like 6 issues there. He shows up in a lot of people's things a lot, right? Because I wrote Blade before in this like War of the Strike Force something or other that that Marvel put out. There was a whole thing where it was like it was one issue where I got to touch everybody. I never really got to write, right? It was like Blade was in there, the Punisher was in there, Ghost Rider was in there for a second, right? And those are really like the kind of Marvel characters that I should be writing. Mm-hmm. I did a book with Nelson Blake, Miles Morales book, and it was fun. But I'm really not the guy you want to write Miles Morales, right? Like I love Miles Morales, but like, I'm fucking metal. Like, you know what I mean?
You are the guy. Maybe you should do a crazy fucking take.
I could do a mini or something on that, right? But like you want me on like Ghost Rider and Blade and on like a really kind of metal Doctor Strange kind of thing, like that's where you want me to be on. So that's what I responded to was an opportunity to just kind of listen to Kill Switch Engage and write a comic book, I
love that.
That's the vibe.
Nice.
That's metal as hell.
It's also cool. Yeah, it's cool to hear that this movie did help you, or you did draw for some inspiration from.
Yeah, you obviously can see the Norrington film in there. But in the first issue, the first sequence is my ode to the Terminator. Mm-hmm. It's basically Sarah Connor and Tech Noir with the Terminator coming after her when Kyle Reese does the thing, So that's why it's in an 80s club and you got the 80s singer, singing the song and the rest of it, right? I'm very, very transparent with my love letters, kind of in things. And the next issue that's coming out, not the one that you can get now, but the next issue that's coming out, you get some Blade and Dracula together, like the last page of this issue hints at it. But then, you get to deal with Blade and Dracula, which is also cool because like what writer doesn't want to write Dracula?
Yeah.
So it's that kind of stuff. Like, another inspiration I think is the Castlevania Netflix show,
nice.
Which I just think is dope.
Yeah.
So good. I just really, really fucked with that, and was like, yeah, this is the energy. So yeah, it's a nice world for me to be able to do some things that I haven't really been able to do in like big 2 books and screenplays I've written and sold to people, like stuff you haven't read and movies that haven't gotten made yet. Yeah, I got this stuff that I've done, but I haven't been able to like share it with people. So Blade gives me a chance to vehicle that for folks.
So what's your other vampire influences in media?
Oh, I don't know if I have too many vampire influences in media, really. Like, I like vampire movies, right? But like, it's all about what archetype works for like the story you're telling. Now, there's a lot of vampire movies I love, like I'm definitely like a cry little sister, I'll, you're eating worms, Michael. How are your worms? I'll definitely mess with that, but I can't really put Blade up against David, like that's David might not be enough for Blade. That'd be a short movie. Right. But I love The Lost Boys, another kind of vampire story that I don't think I can really reference hard in Blade is Fright Night. Yeah. I love Fright Night. The Brad Fiedel score, Roddy McDowall's performance, Chris Sarandon's performance, and there again, Amanda Burse in there before Married with Children, before she became a director, she's up in there, You're So Cool, Brewster, and the whole thing. Like, really dig that. And I dig Fright Night Part 2, real talk. Like Julie Carmen, who plays the vampire's sister. So you have I think Jerry Dandridge is the vampire in the first Fright Night. And then it's Regina Dandridge in the second Fright Night. Might be a cousin or something like that. But the second Fright Night gets slept on, but her performance is kind of amazing. And I really dig that movie. And that movie has a real vibe to it, and kind of modern day vampire stuff, like Guillermo. There is a little Guillermo in my book, with the and all that stuff, right? Nice. So and somewhat underrated. I think that Luke Goss's performance as Jared Nomak in Blade 2 is also underrated because it's adrenalized and it has a lot of energy. There's a tragic, element to the character, when he dies, he's just it hurts no more. I was like, that's how a bad guy's supposed to die, and, so I think that's cool. I tell you in the next issue when Blade with Dracula, I am one of those guys, one of those Dracula guys that I'm a Baroque Bram Stoker Dracula guy. I am not one of those he's got the short hair and he's wearing Armani, no, my Dracula had cloaks. Yeah. I'm in the Vlad Tepes, Son of the Dragon, Francis Ford Coppola kind of vibe, the gothic. Cursed by God, look what your God has done to me. That's Dracula for me, Yeah. So I think Gary Oldman's performance in Bram Stoker's Dracula really stuck with me as a kid.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's
terrible. I just thought he was super cool.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
One of the best.
Yeah, so and then you got this. I mean, there's this kind of a deeper cut. But if you're a cinephile film nerd like me, you know about it. There's a movie called Near Dark that Catherine Bigelow directed before. Yeah, Catherine
Bigelow and it's what's his name?
Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton. Got Lance Henriksen up in there.
Yeah.
This is before Catherine Bigelow became respectable. You see, and did the respectable Oscar movies. But back in the day, she was making stuff like Near Dark, that was pretty badass. It's Southwestern.
Yeah, it's a Western.
It's a Western
80s.
Yeah, I mean, it's Lance Henriksen as a vampire villain in the American Southwest. Say no more.
Yeah, sold.
Go track down Near Dark and watch that. So the vampire movies are cool. Vampire stories are cool because they're all about sex, really. so they really appeal to adolescent hormonal people, especially if you're like me when you were not a cool kid, you were not smooth. Any story where somebody's just looking at somebody and being now you will fall in love with me. I was like, okay, that's cool. That's a power I'll never have. I was always kind of down with vampires for sure.
Hell yeah! So okay, let me ask you a serious question.
Yes, I'll give you a non-serious answer because that's what I'm all about.
If vampires were real and one came to you right now and offered to turn you, would you do it? Yes or no?
That's an interesting question. It all depends on what kind of vampire I turn into, right? Because if I'm going to be on some Nosferatu, they can keep it. Now, if I get to be cool Gary Oldman Dracula and I can turn into a wolf but I can still talk like a dude then we're into some business there, you know what I mean? So it would all depend on the kind of vampire that I would be. If I could be a cool Chris Sarandon, Fright Night vampire eating an apple in one bite. Like, yeah, I would probably do that. I mean, I don't go out in the sunlight anyway, so it really wouldn't change my schedule.
Nice. That's a good answer.
Yeah, that's fun.
Oh, I wanted to ask, are you the kind of writer, like if you are writing a new comic of an established character, do you have to like obsessively like read their every comic they've been in, or like a large chunk of their history, or you're kind of just going by what you read? Know? Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. I'm a nerd, so there's a lot that I have in my head anyway. It's not like I'm coming in from the outside and like, tell me of this Kal-El. Like, I know the things, if the scale of entry point knowledge is you got David Goyer on one side and you got Christopher Nolan on the other side, I'm definitely on the Goyer scale of nerddom, right? Yeah. I think Nolan was familiar with Batman, but we're all familiar with Batman, but Goyer was able to kind of do the thing. So I generally don't work on characters that I've never read for pleasure, because if I haven't read the character for pleasure, there's a reason. Right. Like, I read comics. I've been reading comics my whole life. So if I'm not at least ambiently familiar with the nature of a character, then I'm probably not going to work on it because I don't really follow that character. Now, I always try to go back and do some research just to see like what the stuff is that I might not have just gotten along the way. If there's, in Blade's case, there's no like Dark Knight Returns for Blade, right? There's no Arkham Asylum or Year One or anything where you're like, you probably need to read this before you do it. Like, it's not like The Man Without Fear, right? You got to read The Man Without Fear before you write Daredevil. Like, he doesn't really have those kinds of stories. So it was more just kind of, kind of going through the stuff, going through the Wolfen stuff, going through the modern stuff, kind of seeing where you could fit in. But I'm one of those guys that, and I say guys, guys also include guys and girls. I'm not shutting the ladies out of the conversation. I'm one of those people that I don't have a pious deference to continuity, to established traits of characters, but I do like to make sure that I am honoring what seems to be the essence of the character, right? Some storytellers will come in and they want to tell the story they want to tell, and they don't really care about what the rules are, right? And sometimes that can result in something really cool, right? Like, so like, I love the 89 Batman, but he's like murking people with M60s on the Batmobile, like, so like,
hell yeah.
That's, there's no kill rule in effect in that movie. Now, I love the movie, but it is a little different than, some of the essential qualities of Batman, right? But Burton's a genius and Keaton is a genius. And so it worked out and it's a really cool movie. But in general, like, that's probably not a choice I would personally make creatively, because I'd be more like Rocksteady, with Batman in the Arkham games. I'd be more like, I'm not going to kill because that's going to make me like them, Alfred, and I would be that dude, because I think that's one of the essential qualities of the character. But like when I was a writer producer on Titans, that show didn't want to be as locked in to some of those things, right? So like, I was working in an environment where that wasn't a thing that was really a rule in the room. So, you work with the rhythm of the show they're on. And I can also do that. But me natively, I feel like if there's a character that gets presented to me and the first thing I want to do is change some of the essential qualities of the character, then I don't really want to do the character. That means there's a story I want to tell that I can kind of wedge into the character. But I think you got to kind of feel it, and be on the same frequency with it.
Nice.
I want to point out something I recently just learned, everybody.
Let's hear it.
The 1989 Batman, and this is a true thing, introduced the grappling hook.
Yes.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I read about it like 2 days ago. He did not have that before. He had a rope with a little batarang.
Batarang. Yeah, he used to throw the batarang and swing it. But he never had the grappling hook. Yeah. And one of the interesting things about when you translate comics to film is sometimes you have to put a little bit of physics in a movie because you can't get away with the same things you can get away with the comic book. Like in a comic book, you can just have him have the black cord wrapped around the gauntlet and it's just stretching off panel and he's just swinging in, right? Yeah. But like you can't get away with that in a movie. So you have to tech it up a little bit and give it like a little bit of physics, which is great. Because then that also gets translated into the books, and there can be a really lovely synergy between those things, and it opens the world up a little bit. You know, like I understood why Raimi was like, well, I'm going to do the organic shooters in my movies because I don't want to have to worry about web fluid. I don't want to have to, you know, because that's like 10 pages of story. You know, like Peter building, you know, the web shooters and getting the web fluid and all of that while he's in high school. I mean, you know, it's a little bit of a different thing. And that's why, like, you know, when they do the later movies, right, where there's the Garfields or it's the Holland films, you know, in the Garfield films, they've got the whole Oscorp angle. So you have like this tech running around that, you know, Peter can kind of get in on, and they really do lean hard into Peter being like really smart, you know, and not that Toby's wasn't smart, but they didn't lean as hard into it as they did in the Garfield. Like the science,
yeah, that's a good point.
You know, was a big part of the Garfield ones, and then with the Holland films, you know, you got Tony Stark in there, so Tony Stark is like your all solution for anything tech that a character will ever need, you know. Exactly. Like, don't worry, I just make this up for you. Here you go. And then they have it. And then, okay, then there you go. And then, like, now the character has a thing.
Chest that they have to make anything. It's a...
Yeah, like, you know, so, like, you can... So it's a little different. So, yeah, I mean, you know, certain changes like that, you know, sometimes you just have to make those deals. But in comics, you know, I think there's a reason why these characters have existed for so long. And there's a lot of kind of navel gazing and gnashing of teeth about, you know, the comic book audience dwindling or comic books not selling or, you know, any of that stuff. And I'm like, well, you know, like it's a couple things, right? So one, in like the big boom of the 90s, for instance, you know, video games were like 16-bit at best. And movies weren't really doing these kinds of things. So the only way you were going to get these images was in a comic book. You just weren't going to get these images anywhere else. But nowadays, you know, when you got 4K video games where you can literally feel like Batman for 60 hours for $60, or I can read 20 pages for $5, right? It's like value added, you know, and then you have like the movies, you know, that are putting all these images on screen now. And so the calibration has to kind of be there. And so I think when you combine that with sometimes as a reader, you know, you walk into a store and buy a book and Superman isn't Superman, or he's not acting like Superman, or Batman isn't really Batman. He's some other guy's Batman. And, you know, you just get kind of like confused about it. And I think, you know, remembering the essential qualities of these characters, like why do people, you know, love these characters? And I'm not besmirching anyone's creative choices. I'm not throwing shots at anybody because, look, everyone has their own inner voice they got to follow, right? But like, for instance, like if I'm Bryan Hill and I'm putting Luke Skywalker on screen for the first time in like 30 years, I really want that to be satisfying. Yeah. You know, yeah. You know, I personally really want that to be satisfying for people. Like, I don't want, you know, not that I'm Pollyanna about, you know, having to mirror everything they came before, but, you know, I just think that, like, you want to see Luke, Han, and Leia and Chewie in a scene together. Yeah. You know, I would come in and be like, that's kind of my responsibility here to do that, you know? But, you know, but artists do what they want to do and they follow their own thing. And so I'm not throwing shots at Ryan or anything. He's brilliant. But I just think so I'm just saying all of this to say that if you hear about Bryan Hill writing a thing, don't really expect me to turn it upside down. No. You know, I'm not turning upside down guy.
Yeah, I respect that.
You know, I'm just not. I don't roll like that. Like, if I do a James Bond movie, he's going to be James Bond.
Yeah. See, I kind of like that. Actually, I kind of like reading comics that, like, even like they just feel like the story isn't necessarily. I'm not saying this about your writing or anyone's writing. Like, sometimes it is just to do like it's nice to read a classic comic where like the story doesn't deviate too much from what they've already done. And it's just like a like a quintessential.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to find, I look for undiscovered territory within thematics. I look for undiscovered territory within some aspects of supporting characterization. Like if you want to, like, let's say you want to do Superman, but you don't want to just do Superman the way everyone's done Superman. I don't think the job is to change Superman.
Yeah.
I think the job is to put other characters in Superman that he hasn't interacted with before, and then see how Superman deals with those characters, right? Like, that's sort of how I would approach it, because I think that's the best of both worlds. Like you get the newness of like a new kind of experience, but you also have a Superman that feels like Superman the entire time.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like that.
I agree.
I want to cut back to, just because you mentioned something earlier, what are you reading right now?
Oh, gosh. I mean, right now I'm reading the screenplays that I have to write, to be honest. I don't have a tremendous amount of time, right? So I kind of get in and get out with books, right? So like, I'm weird. So I don't necessarily read a lot of the stuff as it comes out. I kind of, because everything that I consume is going to affect me creatively in one way or another, right? So I have to be kind of careful about what I'm reading depending on what I'm writing, because the energies are all different. But like, I will make time for Tom King.
Nice.
Because I think Tom is great. So like his Wonder Woman and his Supergirl and stuff like that.
I might Supergirl. It was so good.
I might get to it late, but I'll get to it.
We relate to it too.
We just read Human Target Volume 2.
Human Target.
Like Human Target's dope. Like so Ben Percy's current work with like Wolverine and Ghost Rider and stuff that Percy's doing. Percy's stuff is super strong. But I read a lot of old stuff over and over again too. Like I'll read like Elektra Assassin every month. And kind of get that up in me, and and then like the Arkham Asylum, you know what I mean? I'll be on one with Arkham Asylum for a little bit too, like it's like that kind of deal.
Can I ask you a stupid question? It sounds like you're a big Daredevil fan. Have you seen the 2003 Daredevil?
The Affleck joint?
Yeah.
I mean, I like Daredevil. I mean, real talk. Like, I'm not like the biggest Daredevil fan in the world. Like, I like Man with, I don't think any of Daredevil's bad, but I was a big Man Without Fear guy. And I was big on, like the kind of the golden years of the Bendis run.
Oh, those were so good.
Yeah, like when it was like real crime drama stuff, like Penguins. Yeah, I said Penguin. Kingpin in like a trailer home, trying to put the stuff back together. It was like real kind of like, it almost felt like Brubakery, just like real kind of chewing on screws and nails, Daredevil stories. So I was really into that stuff back when like Mac was doing covers and all that. Like, that I got into it, and then I sort of fell out of it. It's got, time. This is going way back talking about Bendis and Daredevil, but like, I kind of fell out of it then. About the 2003 movie, I've seen the movie a couple times. I mean, look, that movie came out in like the early aughts when there was a certain approach to the comic book film. And, it was like kind of like the hybridity, it was like the missing link between, not trying to have like real substance at all, really.
Yeah.
But we weren't quite into like the Nolan takes on things yet,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely, it's definitely like, within its time, I was entertained for sure. I just think that there was a different approach to those movies. I don't think back then there was a real sense that you could bring in the kind of people you could bring in with a Nolan experience. I think it was more like, we got the fight scenes. We're gonna have a lot of wire work because The Matrix came out recently, so we got some wire work in there. It's a lot of that stuff. CGI was still kind of early phase, so they were a litlittle gooey.
Yeah.
You got them kind of gooey effects, that we're sort of doing. You know what I mean? Like we kind of want a superhero costume, but we don't really know. So it's like, like we're gonna kind of do it, but we're not really gonna like do it.
Not committing.
But like it was an of the time kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, Blade committed.
Yeah.
Blade did commit. Blade really did commit. Norrington, I know he just woke up and chose violence when he directed that movie. Like,
yeah, it's so brutal.
Yeah, so I don't know what he was on. It was
like the first 5 minutes, it's like high octane, like cutting people up, shooting them. Yeah,
it's like somebody like every day somebody just said something bad about Stephen Norrington's mother, and he was like, "I'm gonna direct the hell out this movie today." Because he just like fired. I mean, there were things going on in that movie, just like transitions to scenes that are just like, okay, that's extra work that like people wouldn't normally have to do. I mean, the way the movie's cut, and then Wesley's choreography is so good, so sharp.
Dude, he's awesome.
Yeah,
he's incredible.
It's just that thing is just firing on all cylinders.
I don't know if anyone else will play that.
Yeah, he's always going to be my Blade.
Yeah,
it's really tough because Wesley is, a really good actor. Like dramatic quality actor who's also a phenomenal cinematic martial artist. He's probably a dangerous guy in real life. Like, I mean,
he's like a legit like 3rd degree like black belt type shit.
I mean, and on screen, like his moves are so clean.
Yeah,
it's like that's what karate is supposed to look like. And then Jeff Most was doing the choreography on that. And Jeff is really talented. And so, there's just a lot happening talent wise in that picture. I don't know who the DP was on that, but just
that
a really
final sword fight between him and Deacon Frost is really
for sure.
That worked really well.
Like originally they were going to do a whole thing where it was just like a big CGI thing.
Yeah, he was like a CGI red blob.
Yeah, he was like a blob. Gooey.
So dumb. Yeah,
it was gooey.
Super gooey.
And they realized like that's not it. Like you got this guy that's burning up the screen as this villain the entire movie, and then how can you not have Wesley actually fight with Dorff to really sell that and make that work, right? And so it was really smart of them to kind of come back and reshoot it and bring Dorff in there so you could get that personalization there with the character, but.
Apparently also there was like an alternate ending where you see Morbius and it's Norrington, the director, and he's like standing on a roof and he's just covered like with a scarf or something. Yeah, they weren't allowed to use Morbius, so.
I mean the rights things were like super weird. Because I was involved with that world for a little bit years ago on a movie pitch that kind of was going a little bit, then it did the Hollywood thing where it didn't go anywhere. But like the rights things can be really weird, who you have and who you don't have and you can use. And I was like that was New Line, I think. Did Blade. So that was back when Marvel rights were still kind of like, like Artisan Entertainment had some stuff and Sony got Spider-Man out of that. And New Line was sitting on Blade. It was before, the Fellowship of the Ring happened and they all got brought into the same thing.
Yeah.
And before that, New Line also had Ninja Turtles as their franchise.
That's right. Yeah. Well, New Line was really like, so New Line's like the brainchild of like Robert Shea and Lin Shaye. Lin Shaye is Robert Shea's wife. Lin Shaye from Insidious was Robert Shea's wife. Robert Shea was the producer that is really responsible for the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Ooh, oh shit.
And so New Line Cinema was behind Nightmare on Elm Street and got Craven back. In the form, because before Elm Street, Craven was kind of in a lull. He kind of came on this. He came in late as a director. And I think was it Last House on the Left?
Yeah.
That wasn't his first one. I think he did something else before Last House on the Left. They did Last House and that worked. And they do Hills Have Eyes? Was that him?
Yep.
He might have done Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, he definitely did Hills Have Eyes.
And so he was cooking, and then like he did Swamp Thing. With like Dick DeRock and Adrienne Barbeau and Louis Jordan, and that didn't really work for him. And so there was kind of like this little lull period. And then, he put Elm Street at this, saw this story about this. I think it was a guy in Thailand who had died from a nightmare, and he combined that with this image he had from childhood of seeing this guy in a fedora and a red and green sweater looking up at his house when he was in the top bedroom looking down. He saw this guy looking up at an old guy, and it kind of stuck in his head. and then did Elm Street. But New Line did that. And so that was like the big thing for New Line. And then those movies just became box office juggernauts, especially after Dream Warriors. They just did like really, really well. And then so that was Robert Shea and all that stuff. So they were basically like a horror studio for a bit. But then Ninja Turtles, you know, when the comic book boom, that kind of soft boom, the post Batman soft boom happened, and they put Ninja Turtles together, and they did that. You know, I mean, New Line. I think New Line's on I forgot the other things.
Mortal Kombat too, and
that's right.
You could actually see in Blade. There's a quick scene. There's a little girl, I think, in the back of the club, and she's watching Mortal Kombat on TV.
That's right. They did do Mortal Kombat. And that was fun. I mean, like, you know, you go back to it now, like some of the effects are a little suspect, right?
That movie's still awesome.
But it's awesome. Yeah.
I maintain that's awesome.
But it moves. That movie moves at a clip, you know, and Paul W.S. Anderson, that director, I think, you know, he's underrated in the sense that he's made some really strong films, you know, like things that affected other things, right? So like Mortal Kombat, I think, had a lasting effect just in terms of being able to even conceive doing something that was that fight heavy and handling it like that and doing the whole deal. And they did Event Horizon, Paul W.S. Anderson, right? Which is and now, so here's the saddest story about Event Horizon. So the movie that got released is good, but there is this other cut that existed that was a little more atmospheric that from the people who have seen it says like, oh, it was stronger than, you know, in this cut, but you know, it gets cut down because they want to, you know, the studio stuff and all that. Problem is that footage is gone. Like, I don't think it was preserved properly. So like the negatives are gone. So it's not like the Event Horizon footage is sitting somewhere and we can just like, you know, kickstart it or, you know, it's like literally the footage doesn't exist. And it's such a heartbreak.
Oh, it's true lost media.
But I think there's real quality in that movie, and you know, and I know people like kind of dog the Resident Evil stuff, but you know, there's a lot of them for sure. But there's like one of them, I don't even remember which one it is, but there's one of them that just like opens up with like the slow motion umbrella stuff and this dubstep stuff is playing. Like, you know, when W.S. Anderson like wakes up and like, you know, he can really do a thing. You know, and I was just talking to somebody the other day about how we're so all in on the big comic book movie that the bottom has totally fallen out of that character driven genre movie that was like between 10 and 20, you know, that like would have actors in it that weren't necessarily like, you wouldn't hang the whole poster on them, but they're good and they could kind of push a story forward. And those movies gave us new directors. They gave us new actors. They kind of birthed these new story worlds. And Hollywood, they're just not making them anymore. And it's so sad, right? Because like they're not making the Event Horizons. Even going back to the 80s, they're not making the Robocops. You know, they're not making these movies. They're not making the Fright Nights. They're not making these movies. They're not making the Terminator.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, that's how you get James Cameron. You know, like that's how you get these people, and they grow into making your avatars, and they make $1 gajillion every time they do a thing. and so, like, yeah, like I hope that comes back, because that was just giving us more and more story worlds, and the stuff that they're remaking now was all the stuff that they won't make now.
Yeah,
ironically enough, right? Like they'll remake Highlander, but they wouldn't just make Highlander. Yeah, right, which is wild.
For sure.
It's so crazy, right? So I don't know, man. But cycles come and go. So I'm hoping that
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, even just to use another example of the kind of shit you've been talking about, like Predator. They don't make a Predator type movie anymore.
But Prey was really good and original. I really loved Prey.
Oh, I did like Prey. We did a Prey episode.
Yeah, Prey is good. Well, Trachtenberg's one of those dudes, right? Because Dan Trachtenberg did he did the Cloverfield in the bunker.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cloverfield Lane.
Right. With Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah.
And other dude. But Trachtenberg's really smart, right? So Trachtenberg is one of those guys that would be like your John McTiernan or your I don't know if he's as interested in the technical pushing film forward as Cameron, but like he's one of those filmmakers, right? Like a friend of mine, JD Dillard, is a really talented filmmaker. Did a movie called Slight a while back. He's showrunning a show right now. Did a movie called Devotion. He's like just a really smart genre guy. And so you've got these great filmmakers that are out there that would normally have been the guys that would be making your Total Recalls, and these kind of pictures. So hopefully we kind of get back to that, maybe post strike and having to be a little bit more conscientious about where you're spending money. Maybe Hollywood will see like the value in, maybe a $20 million genre movie isn't a bad idea. Maybe we'll take a risk on this new director. We'll take a risk on this actor who may not be a crazy box office draw at the moment, but they can really get the job done on screen. So maybe we'll just spend less and give them a platform and see what they do,
Cultivate some new talent.
Can I ask? Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to ask this as like a screenwriting question, right? Is it because like people aren't writing these scripts or they wouldn't because they know it's not going to get made, or like have people tried to like push this and Hollywood just doesn't want to buy it?
Well, I mean, it's never that cut and dry, right? Right. So like there's always a conspiracy of forces that either get something made or keep something from getting made. And it's never as simple as YouTubers make it seem. You know what I mean? It's never, it's not agendaed as much as it just takes a miracle of planetary alignments to make anything. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And frankly, the less people that go to movies, the more conservative Hollywood gets in terms of spending its money on things. Right. Because like Hollywood follows money. That's the thing. Like it's not a political agenda. It's not at this. It's not at that. It's literally money because it's a business and it's a high risk business. Right. Because, if you're a studio, you can make money on everything eventually, but, you're looking at your quarterlies. That one thing that really works helps cover you on the things that don't quite work, but we'll sort of find it and then like build over time. Right. And nowadays it's even higher stakes because back in the day, you could recoup your money on physical media.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Like Best Buy just had an announcement, like we're not going to carry DVDs anymore.
Yeah, that was crazy.
We're just not doing it.
Really? They just said that?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys watch Chris Stuckman, but he's a homie of mine. He's a YouTube guy. And he reviews movies, but he's also a filmmaker himself. He recently directed a movie of his own that I saw a cut of. It's very, very good. Super smart guy, Chris Stuckman. And he just put a video out where he was just kind of bemoaning the current state of filmmaking and, where we are. And so like when the physical media just dropped out of the revenue stream game, then everything became kind of about theatrical. And then you're going into streaming models. And the profit margin in the streaming models is weird because you're like, okay, you're making money off of number of subscribers that remain and the number of subscribers that you grow. But there may be kind of a saturation point on how many people are going to sign up to your thing, right? Like, because virtually every household in America that's a well-functioning household would have a television and something that could play a movie. Now, like there are still plenty of households in America that don't have internet fast enough to really make streaming work. That's not, again, we're not like South Korea where everyone has like 8G or whatever it is. I mean, I live in LA, so I'm in a metropolitan environment. So I got like the super Fios, whatever, right? Like I can download something to the Quest 3 while I'm playing Cyberpunk and I'm like, editing footage on a website. Like I got that in it. But it's not a universal thing, right? So it's, and this stuff is adding up. $20 here, $14 there. Like very quickly you can get to around a $200 a month bill on having these services.
Oh yeah.
If you have Max, Netflix, Disney Plus,
Prime.
Hulu, Prime, right? like you're edging up there. And if you're like a film bozo like me, you're probably going to have Criterion, you're going to have the other things too. Right. And so, you're out the door $140 on these streaming services, right. Which is a little cray. So I think so. Long story made semi short. I think the reason why everyone is so risk averse is there are literally less ways to recoup the money than there used to be. This idea of like, we're going to release a movie and it may not do super well in the theater, but by the time Blockbuster and Hollywood Video get done with the rentals and then we go into physical media sales, we'll be okay. But with all that being gone,
Yeah, you used to get tons of movies like that, like Donnie Darkos and the Grandma's Boys, and that like in theaters did terrible.
Yeah, and there's companies out there like, you got XYZ that makes really cool, smart genre stuff. Obviously, A24 has kind of cornered the market on that brand, right?
Yeah.
Neon, it was kind of in that A24 mold, although they're going a little bigger now because they financed Ferrari, the Michael Mann movie, which is a bigger movie, right? So they're doing the thing. So you have pockets, but it used to be, like you have a bunch of little places that were doing movies like this. Like when I was growing up, like you just had like Orion was making these movies and like, Hemdale be putting some movies out, like places that you haven't even really thought of, but there's just not that many of them now.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any idea when your trade of Blade will be coming out?
I don't, man. I mean, there's probably a machinery to it, right? So what there's because what they put 4 or 5 issues in a trade,
5,
right?
5 to 6.
So
yeah.
I would imagine there's likely like a kind of a machine. It might be like 4 months from, or I don't know what it is, but it'll probably be at the standard release of whenever trades are released. With Blade, like because some things I write, and not that I write for the trade, but I write knowing that a lot of people are probably just gonna like buy the trade, right? So like if you go back to like American Carnage, for instance, like a Vertigo book I did a while back.
That was a great comic.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Like I kind of knew that, like, yeah, there'd be people that'd be picking it up issue to issue, but being Vertigo, being kind of like a more like sit down, we're really going to dig into, graphic novel kind of crowd, right? Even though it wasn't a graphic novel because it was coming out sequentially. I kind of knew that a lot of people were going to, ingest it that way as a thing. With Blade, I'm working really hard to make sure that like every issue fucks. So like if you go to a store and you're like, oh man, what's out? And you're like, yo, Blade is out. You just know Blade got some crazy shit for you. Like every issue, I'm just trying to drop some crazy shit in there. Because look, $5 is it $5 an issue now?
Yeah,
like
I think 4 to 5. 4 to 5.
It's like 4 to 5. That's not a small amount of money.
Nah,
it's not like it. Like if the way I look at it, if somebody walks into a comic book store, like Blade isn't going to be the first $5 they're going to spend, right? Like they're probably, let's say they can spend $25, so they can get, let's say, 4 books, 5 books, right? Okay, well, you're probably going to be, there's going to be some Batman in there, maybe 2 Batmans in there, depending on the average consumer.
I like that.
Maybe some other Justice League thing you're going to mess around with. Go ahead and get Tom's thing, right?
Yeah,
that's 15, right? And then you can go over to the Marvel side. Maybe Hitman got something out, or one of those mainstays. So Blade is like the last $5 of your $25 in a lot of ways. And at that point, depending on where you're at in America, that's food.
Oh yeah.
Like you can eat on $5 in a lot of places, right? And people work hard for their money. So if I'm expecting people to walk into a comic book store and spend kind of like the extra $5, right? It's a bit of a deeper wallet dive than like the automatic Batman pickups, the automatic X-Men pickups, right? The automatic whatevers, right? I got to make sure that thing is worth it. Because I think a lot about that. I didn't grow up with money. I got money now, but I didn't grow up with money. And I know what it's like to have to make the choices. Like I could watch this or I could eat this, I could read this book, or I could go to this place, but I can't do both of them this weekend. you know?
Yeah.
I grew up making those choices, right? And I think a lot, like people work bad jobs for people they don't like and they don't get paid a lot.
Yeah.
And then they're going to go into a store and they're going to spend their money. And it's not easy to buy a comic book, man. Like, you know, you got to like go to your local store. And because the market is weird, a lot of those mom and pop stores have dried up. So now you got to drive kind of out of your way to get to one, but you want to support it because you've been going to that place for a long time and they're good people, you know, and they can't order everything that's out there because they got to move units.
Right.
So, and they got to split their space with manga. They got to split it with toys, t-shirts, lunchboxes, because they got to, you know, they can't just survive on the books anymore. So everyone is kind of at the margins on this thing in a lot of ways. And if someone's going to, you know, because I don't know what's minimum wage now, about what, $11, $12, something like that? 13 maybe?
In West Virginia, it's still $7.25, baby.
Oh, well, Lord have mercy. But I think it's like national average of minimum wage. I mean, one of y'all can look it up, but I think it's probably like around maybe anywhere between like 10 and 13 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm in New York, so it's
starting
15.
minimum for fast food workers in California is now 20.
It's not 20. Oh, well, you know, yeah, but also the tax in California is 40,000%.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
you know, it is what it is. But let's just say a national average is $12.
Yeah, that's,
you know,
fair.
just go boom. All right. $5 is a half hour of your life spent
right?
doing something you probably hate doing. Right. You know what I mean? Not for everybody, but for a lot of folks, Yeah. So I do think it's important to make sure that, you know, there's value in the books, you know, and it's also why, like, you know, I'm as left as they get. Like I'm a dirty liberal NPC, whatever the term is, you know what I mean? I'm one of them. But at the same time, you know, I don't like to preach to people. And I don't like to talk down to people. And I try to tell stories that are a little bit bigger umbrella, because rather than engage like politics directly, I like to engage ethics. Nice. Because what I find is if you can't have a calm and rational political discussion with someone, you can have a rational ethical discussion with somebody. If you kind of get it out of the R and the D of it all.
Yeah.
What America, you got the R, the D, and the L for libertarian. But if you get it out of those definitions and just discuss ethics, then I think everyone can kind of find their way into a thing. And I like storytelling to be a common denominator, you know, to kind of focus us all on what we have in common more than what we don't have in common, right? Like that was always what stories were for me. I mean, I was a scholarship kid growing up, and I was the poorest kid in my high school. My high school kids had money. I mean, they were getting cars at 16. You know, they lived in Wayne Manor. I was like, I don't even know why y'all going to school. To do what? You know, like, why are you guys in school? To learn what? To do what? Like, you're done. You're 16 years old and you're done. You know, I got to take care of my family. I'm like Luke Skywalker of my family. Like, you guys are. You know, what we had in common was pop culture.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there was sports, you know, and there was pop culture, right? And that's where, like, we all saw a movie, and, you know, we could talk about, you know, how hot Jamie Lee Curtis was in True Lies or something, you know, and then
God, I was just thinking about that the other day.
You know what I mean? Like that's not something you could like have a conversation with folks about. You'd be quoting some movies here, you know, and all that. Like, yeah. So I think about all those things when I'm doing these books, and it would break my heart if somebody picked up a book of mine and thought I was yelling at them,
yeah,
because of something that, you know, that is, you know, kind of like part of who they are, but like not the totality of who they are, you know. So
for sure,
yeah, oh yeah, that's incredibly valid.
Yeah, love that.
I mean, you got like American Carnage, where I'm like, you know, being that guy. But but even in that joint, like I tried not to make it a soapbox, and I tried to make sure that nobody was perfect. You know, like it was funny because when I first dropped that book, or that the announcement came out, a lot of people were like, "Oh, here we go. Oh, Bryan about to do it. He about to do it." They were warming up on YouTube, boy. They were warming up. They had the JPEGs of me with the bug eyes, like, bah! You know, they were photoshopping purple hair on me, everything they wanted to do. You know what I mean? and then the book came out, and a lot of folks were like, okay, you know what? You actually told a story, and I was like, man, I told you on Twitter. Like, y'all know what I'm about. You know, like I'm trying to make it cool. I'm trying to make it interesting. You know, and so if I do something like American Carnage, like it's about like white supremacist movements and whatever. But I treated that the same way that like a show like The Shield treated its characters. So I just thought it was like an interesting milieu in which to tell a story, and I was going to tell a story about characters who are reprehensible in some ways, and in some ways, you can see where they're coming from, and I leave it to the reader to figure out how to feel. I'm never going to tell you how to feel about a thing.
Nice.
Unpopular opinion these days, I think.
Oh, I like that.
No, yeah, I agree. I think I'm on the same page as you. Like everything you were talking about, like staying true to the character while doing your own thing, and everything you've been. I think we're on the same. Like how they don't make movies anymore, like they would, like RoboCop.
Yeah, it's just, because those are the things that inspired me. I call them big pillow movies because I didn't see any of these movies in theaters because I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But Friday, it's Friday. Mom picks me up from school. We go to Blockbuster Video, and then they had like the good to 3 for 2 or whatever it is, right? And so she rents something she wants to watch with like Shirley MacLaine in it or something, and I ain't messing with that because I'm like 12. But then I see like a robot dude getting out a cop car, and I'm like, I want to watch that. And I get that one, and then and I get some other thing that like taking a risk on the thing. You don't even know. I don't know what this movie is. I'm gonna watch this thing. I like, and then you take it home, and because you didn't have it on stream, it wasn't a watch list. Like you had to watch that joint in 2 days and take it back, or you owe money. Yeah. Right. So you won't watch it. So whatever I rented, whether it was like, Terminator 2 or like some Don the Dragon Wilson movie, I was going to watch it because I paid for it. I'm going to watch this thing. Sometimes watch it twice. And I used to watch these movies. It's kind of a Midwestern term, but, there's one room in the Midwestern household where there's the good TV. Right? Because you might have like 2 TVs and you got a little TV in your bedroom, whatever. And I watched like Transformers on that one and like Voltron and stuff, it was all fuzzy. But then we had the good TV. I always had the good TV. And in front of the good TV was a big pillow. It was like a big like yellow pillow. And I used to sit in that pillow and I used to watch these movies, and I call them big pillow movies. And those were the reasons why I got interested in film and got interested in storytelling, ultimately I started, watching foreign films and gaining an appreciation for that and independent cinema and all that. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that like Jean-Luc Godard is the reason why I got into filmmaking. No, like James Cameron is the reason why I got into filmmaking. Yeah. Like Ridley Scott is the reason I got into filmmaking.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
He made those wet movies. I didn't even know what they were. I was like, his movies are always wet and cool. and if a movie looked wet, I was going to watch it. Like, I just wanted wet movies, where everything kind of shiny, Yeah, man.
Wet.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, man. For sure. No, that's so funny.
Yeah, man.
Gooey and wet. That's
because the 70s movies be real dry. They doesn't dry movies. They didn't really get wet until like the 80s. When everything was like steam and everybody's sweating for no reason. Like, why is everybody sweating in Top Gun? It doesn't matter what they're doing. They're like they're sitting there in a classroom with this sweat. There's beads of sweat everywhere. I shot a thing recently, and I had a makeup artist, Annie, and Annie is she's a sweetheart. She's so talented, and I was like, "Yeah, we got to make everybody look sweaty." Like, I need more glisten, Annie, and she's like, "You sure? Because they're kind of shiny." I was like, "They need to be shiny. Trust me. Trust me. We're doing a Tony Scott thing here. They need to be shiny."
That's hilarious. Something we like to do here on Comics and Chronic is, this is total our thing, but we rate things from 1 to 6 on what we call the Joe Pesci scale.
Okay,
we all love Joe Pesci.
Sure.
So we wonder, it's pretty much like we're talking about how certain things fuck, certain things slap. We just feel like Joe Pesci is that
Yes, yes.
barometer to use.
The epitome of slapping and fucking.
Joe Pesci definitely fucks.
So obviously, 1, Joe Pesci being really shitty, 6 being like the best.
Yeah.
What would you give Blade, the movie?
The movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta give Blade 5 out of 6 Pescis.
I respect
Nice.
that.
Yeah.
I give 5 out of 6 Pescis on that one. Yeah, for sure.
Well, what takes away from?
What takes away that one Joe Pesci?
I think that it's perfect in a way in its construction, but there's a little more you could mine out of it, I think, depth-wise. There's a little bit more you could pull out. It's not even like a note or a correction, right? It's just like, in a way, it's a 6 Pesci movie because I think it does exactly what it wanted to do on nearly every front, right? But the reason I say 5 out of 6 is I think the talent there could have still done a little more than they did, but it's great though. You're not going to get a lot of 6 Pescis out of me, so a 5 is basically a 6.
No, I respect.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I respect. I mean,
you talking about 6? You talking about things that are 6? Oh boy! I mean, The Empire Strikes Back. You know what I mean?
That's a 6 for sure.
You know what I mean? That 6s out. I mean, I love movies. I love Blade Runner, but that's like a 4.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
I kind of agree with that though, because the original Blade Runner. I like Blade Runner 2049 way more than the original.
I love Blade Runner, right? I love Blade Runner, but I also know why it's ambient for people, and I can't ignore that. You know what I mean? I can't. It is a paced experience with a protagonist that is a little opaque. He's an opaque kind of protagonist. You might not immediately sync up with Rick Deckard. So there's some things in there that I can understand. That's why I say it's a 4, right? Because for me, 6 is you should just watch it. Just watch it, right? You should just watch The Empire Strikes Back, right?
Yeah.
Just boom. You should just watch The Godfather. Don't even wonder. Just watch it. I even think Godfather Part 2 is a 6. Watch that too.
Right? We're getting so many Joe Pesci's out of you. This is incredible.
You know what I mean? So those are movies I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear an excuse. I don't care if you don't like The Mob. I don't care if you don't like the 60s. I don't care if you don't like Talia Shire for some reason. I don't care. You're going to watch The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2 because you need to, right? So that's like a 6. It's like an Empire Strike. I don't care if you don't like Star Wars. You're watching The Empire Strikes Back. That's a 6. A 5 is you should probably see this because it satisfies everything it wanted to do. It may not I can't recommend Blade to somebody that doesn't like action horror.
Yeah,
totally fair.
It's not going to transgress
if they only like romantic comedies, they're not going to love Blade.
Right. It's not. You're not. You don't like it. It's cool. If you don't like it, you don't like it. You don't like it. No. That's totally fine. You know what I mean? So that's a 5. And a 4 is a movie that I think is really good, but I can understand how it would be a little difficult for everyone to appreciate, a 6 is, I think you must watch it. A 5 is I'm kind of urging you to take a look at it if you're mildly interested. A 4 is a recommendation, but you might not feel it. I'm not going to be confident that I'm going to give you Blade Runner if you're and then you're going to come back being yo, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I grade it.
We just got the ultimate Joe Pesci lore from Brian Edward Hill.
We love that. Yeah,
you know what I mean? My favorite filmmaker is Michael Mann, right? And
it's such a great choice.
I think Heat is between a 5 and a 6, right? I think maybe its length and one of the subplots might keep it from being just fucking watch this movie. But I think definitely it's a 5 and a half Pesci, right? If
you're talking about Val Kilmer's subplot in Heat.
No, I'm talking about Portman's. I think Portman's subplot.
Oh yeah, hers too.
you know, and then like, I mean, the novel gets into it more heat too, right? But like, and like Breeden, his subplot, my man, from 24, Dennis Haysbert. I think Dennis Haysbert's subplot, you know, it's like there, but like could use a little whatever. But like, I think Heat's like a good between a 5 and a 6.
Nice.
Now I think Collateral is a 5.
I love Collateral.
Ooh, I love Collateral.
I think Collateral accomplishes everything it wants to accomplish, you know, but if someone's like, well, I can't stand Tom Cruise, I don't know if Collateral is going to work for you, right? It's not that it's, you know what I mean? Like, cause you got people out there like, I don't really mess with Tom. And I'm like, I think you like it, but I don't really know, right? But like, for me, like the Michael Mann that I watch the most is Manhunter. Now, nice. Manhunter is a very kind of 80s era movie that I think is like a 4, right? Because like it is
That's
very
fair.
It is very 80s, right?
Like knocking it out of the park.
You know what I mean? Like it so if you're like, oh, I don't know, it's like so 80s. I'm like, okay, I get it. But like if you have room in your heart, I think Manhunter is it, you know, is really there. So I can love a movie. Movies like my personal 6. Nice. But I'd have to rate Manhunter at like a 4.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I got a Michael Mann trading card on my desk.
Oh, shit. Hey, that's
not a game.
Incredible.
It's not a game.
Wait, can you hold it up closer to the camera? Can I take a quick...
Let's see if we get it.
No, it starts to green screen. Hold on, let me get that. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. No, we're not playing games out here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like a lot of people speak of Michael Mann, but it's like, do you know Colonel Ramius?
That's awesome. I just have a Joe Pesci as the devil on my desk.
There you go. There you go. Like, for instance, Scorsese is actually a really great example. So, like, Scorsese, I always knew Scorsese was a great filmmaker, obviously, right? He's Martin Scorsese, right? But it took me a while to find my rhythm with Scorsese. And I think part of it is when I was growing up, I was a Godfather guy. So my mob movie thing was kind of elegant, was a little like more Baroque, right? Classy, you know, like they were Shakespearean, you know? So I was a Godfather 1 and a Godfather 2 guy. So like I had to watch Goodfellas like 4 times before it really happened to me. You know, like I would appreciate it every time and be like, this is a great performance. This is it. This is that. But it wasn't like, oh, this is like one of my favorite movies. But I started to appreciate it. I always liked Taxi Driver. I always thought that was like just had a lot of power to it. But Scorsese, intellectually, I really appreciated Scorsese since the first time I saw his films. Emotionally, I don't think like I got into Scorsese until a little bit later, you know, where I could gain an appreciation for his work in a way that I didn't have it before on an emotional level.
Dude, I totally get that. And you're just checking all the boxes. Talking movies with you has been a blast. I love geeking out over.
I was supposed to be talking about comic books.
Cool. This was awesome.
We talk about all kinds of shit.
Yeah, we talk about whatever our hearts desire.
Well, you know, it kind of goes both ways and everything. You know, what I mean, well, you know, Scorsese be talking about them comic book movies, so I guess you know we talk about
that. Exactly.
But you know, I mean, the way I look at it, like he's Martin Scorsese. Like, if anyone deserves to have an opinion, it's Martin Scorsese. Like, leave it alone. Like, it's cool. It's totally cool, you know.
For sure.
I just read this article about they made a specific kind of lens for him to shoot Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, I wonder. Someone just sent it to me. If you just,
I wonder what quality of lens he needed a special lens for. That's interesting.
The article goes into it. I forgot. You would know it if I remember the name of the camera company. But
marijuana strikes again.
Work. And it's just cool to see like Scorsese still like tries to like challenge himself, or you know what I mean? Like he
really likes. You know, he's a filmmaker who's interested in finding new ways to express cinematically, you know, and those people are inspiring, you know, like Cameron's inspiring to me. I mean, I'll be honest, like as much as I think Avatar films are enormous achievements, I'm like, man, we're not getting anything else out of James, though. It's like, we're just getting Avatar. We're not getting a new Terminator, not even like a sequel, but it's like a new idea like that. And he's not really producing movies for other filmmakers. He's not, he's one guy, right? And so in between like having like, go to the Marianas Trench and then make a movie in New Zealand for 10 years, whatever, one dude can't do everything, His masterclass is excellent, by the way. If you have a subscription to Masterclass or you're considering one, James Cameron's class is excellent. Like, because he doesn't talk, some people do a masterclass be like Bryan Hill's masterclass on comics. Well, the first thing you have to do is just read a lot of comics. And then you just want to write. You see, you just write your comics the way you want to write them. You start at the left and then you go to the right. And then when you run out of room, you just drop a line down and continue that on. And then I'm going to tell you now about something called the superhero. Right? Like you have like those master classes where it's like, all right, guys, Cameron talks to you like a peer. Like he has a whole thing where it's like, okay, so this is what I was doing here in the Terminator. So we have this kind of lens on here. We had to do this. We had to do that. And he's like showing you the clip on like the editing system. And it's like, yo, James Cameron came to play. He really came to teach you something. So Cameron's is really good. Ron Howard's is really good. On the writing front, Neil Gaiman's is excellent. Gaiman's is a really, really good masterclass.
The way with masterclass is, are they pre-recorded or?
Yeah. They're basically like, they get someone really accomplished to come in, and I guess they work with the masterclass people to develop some kind of course. So you basically get a series of videos. I think it's like around 10 videos that are generally around 10 minutes long each, that cover basic principles and kind of ladder you up through a knowledge base of what they're doing. And then each video has its own like PDF kind of homework stuff you can do to kind of nail those principles down. Like Aaron Sorkin has a really good one about screenwriting. He's a good teacher. And I think certain people are just better teachers than others. So like Ron Howard's a really good teacher.
That makes sense for Ron Howard.
Cameron's very professorial. Right, you feel like you're in Professor Cameron's class, right?
Yeah.
Gaiman is very professorial, with the way he speaks about writing and storytelling. And then like other people are interesting, but I don't know, like David Lynch has one, which I think is really interesting, but you're not really walking away from Lynch's with toolbox stuff. Right.
Yeah.
It's more like, well, like when you're making a movie, you just got to make that movie. You just got to make that movie the way you see it, and then you shoot it, and then it's done. And you're like, yeah, man.
It works.
But it's not like the clinic, Like, I mean, I'm sure at some point when he's like 80 years old, David Fincher will do something like that, and it will be amazing, because it will be like 3 hours long about one shot. But it will be amazing, But there's some value there. There's definitely some value in masterclass for sure. I mean, it's something that not a lot of comics on there, unfortunately. I mean, you got Gaiman's there, but he's not really talking comics. He's talking more basic storytelling. I always thought Bendis would probably do a really good one if they wanted to go that direction. Gail Simone would probably do a really good one, in the wee hour days. This is my dog is here on my left, nice. Who wonders why Papa is looking at this window and not petting her. So now Papa has to pet the dog.
I was going to say Alan Moore does. It's not Masterclass. It's some other one, a British one, I think. And Alan Moore does a class. Yeah.
Okay. The first rule is you must hate everyone. Pretty much. But yeah. I think it would be cool. I think it would be cool to get more comic book creators, especially creators that have like a really unique and distinctive voice, like Tom King, right? Like, to have Tom be like, well, this is my process. This is how I knock it out. I start here and I go here and I do this, and this is how I solve this problem. And I started like doing a little bit of that on YouTube, and then just got too busy. It was like, I can't keep this up. So, but I have a couple videos that are up there about writing and stuff.
Nice,
dude. Well, thank you so much for coming on and just knowledge, pop culture conversation. You're just nailing it, buddy. Thank you.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, you caught me in like Quentin Tarantino bozo mode,
Oh yeah.
You mean talk about fucking near dark? I mean, fucking near dark. I was full on cinephile bozo mode. So
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well, no, it's always a pleasure talking to you fellas, and I appreciate everybody who do tune in and donate to the Patreon and tell your friends about it because these are some cool people. And if you're going to see this afterwards, I still appreciate you too.
Yeah, and we'll definitely we're gonna do when the trade's out. We'll do a episode on the trade and
right on.
it. Yeah,
right on. Yeah, for sure. So always a pleasure.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much.
Come back anytime. Yeah.
Alrighty, so can I press the button? Is it cool?
You press it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.
Thanks, Brian.
I'm going to press the button.
Hi, you're listening to Comics and Chronic, and I'm Jake FH.
I'm Cody Cannon.
And I'm Anthony Iannaccio.
And you can tune in every Thursday to hear new episodes of Comics and Chronic.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Comics and Chronic. That's comics, the letter N, Chronic.
We'll see you guys next week.
Woo!
Peace.